Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Brian, Career Advice UK, and I'm doing a special session today talking about um, UK hiring practices. What has changed over the years, over the last year or so, because there has been a lot of changes. And so I figured today, as we are facing right now, approximately 712,000 vacancies with an unemployment rate of 2.5 unemployed individuals for every job vacancy there is. And that's up from 2.2 last year. And so, what does that mean? If you're facing redundancy or looking to make a career change, or if you're been out for a while and you're looking now to re-enter the job market, what does it mean for you? And because today is a little bit different, typically I will do my live streams at 4 a.m. What it is today, it is more focused. Instead of taking all the career advice topics that I will cover, hey, RXP, good to see you. Thank you for joining. So today I'm going to really focus on the UK job market, talk about that, take your questions, because today is really about you and your questions, your interests. And so let's take a few minutes. I'm going to give a few minutes because it does take a few moments for people to get in and to get ready. And I do tend to typically, start a little bit early. So if you are facing redundancy, changing careers, or coming back after a break, tonight's for you. Hey, well, thank you, RXP. I hope to see you again. Thank you so much. I try my best on getting out the information and try to do the live streams. I do, like I say, on occasion, do try to switch it around a little bit to see what works for people in the way of timing. Because I typically find 4 a.m. works the best because I tend to get the most traffic, but I am inclined to basically mix it up a bit. And so keep on watching, and I hope to see you back. So take your time. We still have a little bit. So it is really, today, it's really about you, especially if you're facing redundancy or looking to re-enter, or if you're thinking about, redundancy, if you're facing redundancy. Well, thank you so much. That's really appreciated. I really appreciate the comment, RXP. And I do try to make them useful and try to keep my videos a bit from the mainstay, because there is a lot of people who will just regurgitate the same information over and over. So I try to keep it, try to mix it up and try to make it so that it is relevant for you. Well, thank you so much. So what is changing this year in UK hiring? We're starting to see really a bit of AI screening, or sometimes we call it, hey, Axel, good to see you. Application tracking system. Sometimes you'll hear it called as application tracking software. And what that does, it's AI. And AI will not necessarily decline your application or boot it out. It will basically kind of rank and score your application based on several key factors, such as keywords. How much does it match the job description? How relevant is your experience and more, so it'll score it. So the ones that closely match will get ranked higher, while those who maybe have done a bit, hey, Scarlett and user 651 and Athena, good to see you in text, good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining. And if you do like the video, please like, please share, please follow. And if you do feel so inclined, please send gifts, because gifts does help me to know what is resonating with people. What do people like? But I don't expect it, but it does help me to know what people like. And like I said, today is a bit of a different day. I'm trying a little bit something different, trying to keep it a little bit more focused on the topic of, UK job market, what's changing. And so right now, what we're really, like I said, seeing is this idea of application tracking software, where your CVs get scored and ranked. And so what happens then, it does make it a bit of a challenge. The other thing, when you're using software, AI software, to kind of rank score, one of the other things you have to do is really, what really hurts people, even you may have this great job and you match that job 100%. Sometimes it's poor formatting. And when you're using ATS, one of the things that really makes it difficult is if you start using tables or text boxes, headers and footers or unusual fonts can really throw it off. And so if you are out there and you're sending out your CV and, like I said, you match it, one of the things it is really, will cause it. The other thing, when you're using ATS, what you need to be really conscious of is when you're doing profiles. And profiles, your personal CV profile, really spells out and summarizes your career experience and who you are for the recruiter, hiring manager. Hey, Yafo and Edward and Boxcat and Clarence, good to see you. And Marin, it's all good to see you. One of it is that you use kind of just very generic profile. It is, you use, words that are really hard to quantify. It doesn't show any results, like hardworking team player, with excellent communication skills. It sounds great. It sounds powerful, but your profile doesn't state, what have you achieved? What have you accomplished? And if your CV doesn't back that up, it's going to get rejected. And so that is one thing to think about. The other thing that you really need to think about when you're doing working with CVs is this idea of salary. And it really, salary conversations, when you're dealing, especially with the private sector, not so much the public sector, because public sector have very rigid pay scales. And when you do come in with the public sector, technically, you'll come at the bottom. But if you have a lot of experience and you're willing to negotiate, sometimes you can negotiate a point or two higher on the pay band. But it's not always guaranteed. And it is something that if you do enter into that type of conversation with a public sector employer, you need to be prepared that they turn you down. But if you do it private, they will sometimes give you some breathing room. So it's always, when they offer you a salary, it's typically the floor. And you can then use your research, use your experience to ask for a little bit more. But again, you really need to know what that job is paying for in the sector in your region to try it. And I will do that too, because I do work locum, and I will do a bit of negotiating, because before I will say anything with salary, I will always ask, what is their spend? What are they looking for? What is their budget? If you're not sure about what to say, you're not confident, can always ask that. And I have found in my sector, which is contracts management, over the last year or two, it's really gotten a lot tighter with salary, and there's not as much money to spend. So I tend to be a bit more kind of cautious when I'm talking salary, and when I'm talking, money with them. And I will always let them to make the first offer, and then I will come back with what my salary requirements are. And usually we can wind up, sometimes there's a little bit back and forth about it, but you will ultimately, wind up with something probably a bit better than you were initially going to do if you're going to take their first offer. And again, kind of going back, as we're kind of talking about CVs and kind of if you're facing redundancy, or re-entering the workforce, or career changes, what is it, that you need to do, especially, if you are beginning to look at applying for jobs and really wondering to really get your application to stand up. Because when I do my other lives at God's Word, God's Will, and Daniel and Cooley and David and Elfie, good to see you all. Thank you all for joining. And Noah, what is it that they really take a look at? And really, in all honesty, what you really want to understand is, oh, well, thank you, God's Word, God's Will. Thank you for the roles. That's so much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. What you have to realize is when a recruiter looks at your CV, they're going to spend at best about 35 to 45 seconds looking at it. And most likely, in their first pass, it's going to be 10 seconds. And probably your CV will not get looked at again unless, and this is just from my own kind of experience, unless there is a tie when if you're invited to interview and the interviewers are stuck between two people, what they will do is take a look at their CVs to see who is the closer match for the role. And this is why when you submit your CV, you need to ensure that what you're applying for aligns with the job spec. But anyhow, getting back to what I was saying, what does, hey, Yazin and Tino, good to see you. What does that recruiter look at in the first 10 seconds? It is, do you match? Hey, oh, that's amazing. God's Word, God's Will, that's great. Thank you for you're awesome. That's amazing. Thank you. What it is this. They're looking to see if you meet the job requirement. So basically, they're taking a look at your profile, doing a quick scan of your job history, and looking at really quickly the description of your job, the jobs you've done, to see if you've had that relevant experience. If you don't come across and your CV doesn't, and if it doesn't, what happens then? They're just going to toss it. They're going to bin it. And this is why, again, I keep on coming back to this topic. Don't send generic CVs, because if you do send a generic CV, this is one of the points where it gets rejected, because they can see that your CV doesn't align with the job description. They can see that you didn't read the job description. You haven't taken the time to do it. And because you haven't taken the time, they have absolutely no interest in progressing your job application. So if you're looking for that job and you really want it, you need to take that time to write that CV and make sure that it does. Okay, and if we are going to be talking a bit about putting together your CV and what do you really need. We've talked already about you don't. Hey, Cassie, good to see you. And Jod and James and Bruce and Gary. It is really when you're applying. Hey, thank you for the like. So if you do like the feed, the video, please like, please share and please follow. And if you do feel so inclined, but don't feel so you have to, please send gifts because it really helps me to know what people like and helps me to adjust the conversation and also helps me to plan future content. And really, really what we're talking about is when you're applying, because regardless if you are facing redundancy, you need to put your CV together. If you're looking at a career change or if you're re-entering the workforce from, after taking a break, all this matters because a lot has changed. And if you have a question, hey, Dylan, AMS, please put it down below because I will pick up questions on a first come, first served basis. So like I said at the beginning, this is for you. It is for your chance to talk about the UK job market, ask your questions, get your answers. And, and what I'm just doing is just giving you a bit of filler, a bit of way to, to kind of fill in your knowledge. And again, what I'm talking here, you can look at my videos, my content, and you'll find that I cover these in my content. So again, I would really encourage you to take a look, to follow, and also to hey, Catherine, and also to subscribe because I am looking to get a few subscribers and start doing, a few subscriber type of lives if I can ever get to that point. So if you are interested and you're enjoying this live feed, look at subscribing. So when you're talking about sending off, hey, Frasia, your CV, and you find out, that it is not getting, the callbacks that you were hoping for, there's usually a few things that go on, and it is relatively, fixable. A lot of it can be, fixed. But again, I've already touched on kind of generic, and that's really the big thing. The other thing is that I talk about is this idea of formatting. Is your CV properly formatted? Is it structured? Is the terms you're using in your CV understandable? Do people understand what you're talking about? Or are you trying to be unique by kind of getting your CV to stand out because you're using very, very different words for something? Instead of saying career history, are you saying jobs that I worked? Because if you are, again, getting back to the idea of AI and application tracking software, it is probably the reason why you're getting rejected because it doesn't understand. And so again, you really need to use the very, very common terms like job history, work history. If you just sit there and say jobs that I've been at, jobs that I've done, a lot of times it probably will get overlooked. And also too, what you have to do is when you're doing these things and you're applying, part of it is knowing how to do your CV. The other part, it is understanding the process, because there is a process that goes on. And if you understand the process and understand who and what they're looking for, the better off you're going to be with this. And so, it is not, you have to understand when you're doing applications and you're hiring and you're the hiring manager or you're applying for a job, you have to understand, people do have their own time. People have demands. And especially when you're doing recruitment in a large or even a medium or small organization, you have your workload. And sometimes, for lack of a better word, shit happens. Sometimes something unexpected happens. Somebody that you're relying on to be in isn't in, or somebody along the way has kind of cocked up and you need to kind of go out and fix it. And so even though you apply, even though you interview, sometimes, life happens in a job and they're not able to get back to you and in the steps. Also, too, they don't have, when you're doing and sending off your cover letter, sending off your CV, you have to come and realize that they don't have the time to intricately read your CV, understand what you're trying to say, what you're trying to get across to them. They need something that is very quick to flip through, something that is, hey, Alina, Terry, and Paulie, good to see you, and Phoebe, good to see you. And thank you, Phoebe, for the likes. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And what you have to understand is that when you're giving them that application, you need to be, you need to really cover that job description, and make sure it aligns and doesn't come off generic. The other thing, again, talking about this whole process, when you go into an interview, when you go into an interview, what you really need, to bring about is, so what you need to do is then, take the time to prepare for the interview. Take the time to prepare, take the time to learn about the organization, take the time to learn about whom is interviewing you. Because if you can, it will open up a bit of knowledge for you. It will also open up, it will also come across in your interview and show that you took some time to prepare it. So take a so what I would say to you, take the time, to prepare, take the time to learn the values, take the time to study and learn about the role and know what it is, to learn what it is being asked of you, and for the role, because that will also come. So that will also come because it will help you. So it will help. So if you do have a question, like how to format your CV, how to prepare for an interview, if it is, if you have questions about how to prepare for an interview, how to, discuss redundancy in an interview, how to cover redundancy on a job application, how do you make a career change? Is it a good idea to make a career change at this, given we're at 4.9% unemployment in the UK with 712,000 vacancies with 2.5 unemployed individuals applying for each job vacancy. It is, it is really, hey, no problem. Yes, lad. Well, that's nice to know. No problem. I'm glad to help, to give you information that can help you. That's amazing. Glad to hear it. And thank you for watching today. So, yeah, so if you have questions, put it down. Hey, N3. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. So if you have a question, feel free to put it down below. It is, I will pick up on a first come, first served basis. So yeah, so if you have a question, feel free to so yeah, so if you have a question, I will pick it up first come, first serve, career related, and needs to relate to the topic of UK job market. If you're facing redundancy or career change or re-entering the job market, I will take your questions. I will take your questions. And pick up, because like I said at the beginning, today is for you, and I will easily pick up questions, because this is what it is. So if you have anything on interviewing, one-sided, hey Florina, if you have questions like one-sided interviews, how to do an online interview, hey, how are you doing, Florina? How to do one-sided interviews. What is a one-sided interview? How do you prepare? Assessment centers. Applying for a job with a disability. Hey, Tic Tac, Mary, good to see you. Thank you for the follow. How do you prepare for one? What did they ask? How do you prepare for your third interview? Why do jobs have 3 interviews? Again, I will pick up those types of questions, because there is, a lot of people that do ask the other big questions I do get, which is going, I do it. I still do. Hey, Flux Raza, still do it at 3 a.m. But today is a bit of a special day, because I do from time to time test other times to see what the traffic is like, what type of response I get, and see if it is the best to do 3 a.m., the 4 a.m., excuse me, I do it 4 a.m. British summer time. If it's better to do 4 a.m. or if I should try another time, because sometimes like this time can work almost better for me. So it is one thing for me to see, to do a bit of it. Plus today is a little bit different, because I have been spending a little bit of time over the last week or so, kind of talking a bit about redundancy, re-entering the job market, career changes, and so I figured this would be a good way to do it. Now, if for anyone now that's watching right now, I'm opening up, because I do have on leapstartcareers.com UK Job Seeker Playbook, and I'm offering it right now at 25% off. All you have to do is just enter the code word Playbook 25, all one word, no spaces. And that's running for about the next 2 weeks. So there's no rush tonight, but wanted you to hear of it first because it is. Hey, EM. Hey, good to see you. What's up? It's been a long time. Glad to see you. So, so it is being offered, leapstartcareers.com, UK Job Seeker Playbook 2026. And all you have to do is enter the keyword Playbook 25, all one word, no spaces, and get 25% off. Oh, that's great to hear. Congratulations. Are you finding it really difficult? Are you finding applying very difficult? Are you getting a lot of interviews, or has the graduate market dried up for you? So so if you have well, that's good. So that is good. That is good to hear. That is amazing. Wish you the best, and hopefully you have a short search for it, because I know the graduate market is really suffering. I believe there's only about 10,000, roughly around 10,000 vacancies for graduates. And it is very difficult because a lot of the entry roles have evaporated. And so that's, that is a little worrying, because a lot of and it's not, really due to the drop in graduate vacancies hasn't really been down to it is, but it is weird, but there is a bit of overlap between law and software engineering, especially when you talk about intellectual property, data protection. Which again has impact on like databases. And if you have some kind of software background or programming background, IT background, it is it is one of these situations where it can work in your favor, because IT likes people who kind of come from the social sciences background, provided they have the right skills. And that is really where it lies. And IT can pay quite well. It can pay, at least for the beginning, more than what you could make with a law degree. And so I wish you the best. Keep me updated because I'd love to hear how it goes for you. So yes. Hey Josh, good to see you. It has been. It's been a long time, so I'm kind of doing today as kind of a one-off to kind of talk a bit about redundancy and UK job market and trying to get people. Oh, well, that's good. So what is your promotion? That is encouraging and promising with a very tight economic situation and jobs below the pandemic level. So how has that worked out? Well, that is really good. That is really good. Congratulations. Hey, Carls. Well, that is really good. So if you're just joining, do like the feed. Oh, it is really good. I've sat on boards and it is a really incredible experience to sit on a board. Yes, it is. It is hard, and I'm finding right now because the weather where I live up in North Yorkshire is so humid at night. It is really hard to be able to sleep through the night. So I haven't been doing as many of them because it's been so darn humid. But I'm getting still doing them at 4, but it is kind of every morning is kind of like a wait and see what it's like, because it is. So yes, so if you have a question, put it down below and I will definitely pick it up. So yeah, so that is really good. It's good to see people that used to come during my 4 a.m. lives, and glad to hear people are having a lot of success. That is amazing. So yeah, so if you do have a question, hey Kierman, good to see you. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it down. Oh, well, thank you for the roses, EM. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Hey, no problem. Enjoy the rest of your evening and hope to see you back again. So yeah, so if you do have a question, feel free to put it down, especially as it relates to redundancy, job search, UK job market, re-entering the workforce, or as I do tend to have a specialty and interest in disability confidence scheme and disability employment. Again, anything like that, feel free to put it down. I will pick up on a first come, first served basis. And so yeah, so if you have a question, feel free. Feel free to put it down. And I will pick it up. Like if you want to know about how does ATS software work, what do recruiters look for on your job application? What should a CV have? How do you prepare for a one-sided interview or an assessment center? Or how do you start your own business? Or is psychology a good job? Because that is probably the biggest question I get out of all the questions people ask. Probably the biggest question I get is, should I study psychology? Can I get a job at the bachelor's level with a degree in psychology? You know, those are the types of questions I get. Those are types of questions I field and I get a lot of. I also do get a lot of questions regarding third interviews, how to prepare. How do you prepare for a third interview? What to expect in a third interview? What are they looking for in a third interview? Why do they have 3 interviews? What are they looking for? Isn't, why 3 instead of 2 or even 1? And so it is, a lot of questions I do get on those. And again, it really comes down to if you're wondering how to handle those situations, best thing is UK Job Seekers Playbook 2026, which I'm offering at 25% off on livestarcareers.com. All you have to do is enter the word Playbook 25 when you're checking out to get 25% off, and it will answer many of your questions. So, I would, it's going to be running the discount. The 25% off is going to be running for about the next 2 weeks. So there's no rush tonight to get it. But it does answer a lot of the questions, and it also covers a lot that I've been discussing tonight. And it is, such a small amount, and it's really worth the investment, especially if you're trying to navigate coming into a marketplace that where you believe that the rules that applied 2-3 years ago still apply, because they don't. Everything has changed since January in regards to how things are done in the way of hiring. A lot of times people would say, hit the pavement, send out your CV to everyone, just blanket it. It doesn't work anymore. When you have only 712,000 vacancies, lower than the pre-pandemic levels, lower than the pandemic levels. It is even, there's more vacancies during the pandemic than there is right now. You have 2.5 unemployed individuals applying for each vacancy. And before last year there was 2.2 unemployed applying for each vacancy. And the year before that, it was 1.9. So what that is telling you right now is simply this. There are more people applying, which means that it's more competition. It means that you need to be more strategic, and your search is going to take you a lot longer. And again, UK Job Seekers Playbook 2026, available for 25% off. Just use the code Playbook25 to get your discount at checkout. Will help you through it and help you to position yourself so that you're not spending months job searching. And hopefully, if you use the book, follow it faithfully, it helps you to cut your search time. Can't guarantee it, won't guarantee it will, but it is meant to be as a guide to help you navigate and to help you try to minimize the amount of time you need to search for a job. It gives you all the insight, tips, and advice that you hear during my live streams and in my videos on TikTok. So I would say to you, take a look. and really consider it as an investment. So if you're interested in it and not sure how to get it or where to find it, the link is in my profile. The code is Playbook25, and it's all one word, no spaces. And that's good for the next 2 weeks. So if you have a question, I'm going to be around for about the next 10-15 minutes. If you have a question, feel free to put it down and I will pick it up on a first come, first served basis, because that's what I'm here for. And that is what tonight is all about. It's for you to ask your questions about redundancy, re-entering the job market, making career change, and also to talk. Oh, well, Amber, thank you for the rose. That is so nice. It's so unexpected. So ask about, and I will pick it up. I still got a bit of time. More than happy to take your questions. I still have, about 14 minutes or so. Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing, Amber. Thank you. Thank you so much for the way fireworks. Oh, that's incredible. Thank you so much. So if you have a question, and I know it is, hey, Tux, thank you for the follow. I know it is, not the easiest to ask, especially if you are facing redundancy. Nobody wants to, admit it. Let's be honest, nobody wants to admit it because it is a hard thing. But I've been through there, and I know from my own experience that if you reach out and ask for some bit of help, some support, get some questions answered, it makes the process less frightening because it is very frightening. And the one thing with redundancy, you have to realize that you're not alone. I mean, we're talking, if I remember the stats right, we're talking about 300,000 expected redundancies. And we're probably, talking right now about at least half have occurred. So it means that you're not alone. Others are going through the same thing as you. And it is very easy when you are facing redundancy to go through a lot of knee-jerk reactions, to go through a bit of mourning. And it is, the first reaction is just to send off your CV to everyone. And in my opinion, strictly my opinion, that's about the worst thing you can do. And why is that? It goes back to what I was saying earlier, that, you can't just send out your CV and just blanket it. Because really, at the end of the day, blanketing your CV just doesn't work anymore. It's not the same. And so what you need to do is be strategic. And before you even do that, you need to give yourself a couple of days after being told you're going to be made redundant. Have a bit of a think about what do you want to do next. And again, that's what I can do, is sit down and talk with you and help you to kind of sort through what are your next steps. And then once you get that cleared in your mind about your next step, then you can sit down and start to update your CV to align with it, and then start looking for jobs. And again, that's something I can help with. Talking about setting up regular meetings to talk about what's working, what's not. Take a look at, what would be maybe best jobs for you, or to apply, maybe send you a few job updates and give you some suggestions, and to make it a whole supportive process. I can do that. all you have to do is just head over to leapstartcareers.com, book an appointment with me, or just easier, just book, just message me on TikTok and we can arrange something. And so we're coming down to about the last 10 minutes. And just to let you know, typically I do live stream, but I don't typically live stream at this time, though I may, with the kind of the views I'm getting tonight, it may be something I may start to do on a kind of periodic occasion, though I tend to do most of my live streaming at 4 a.m. We're just summertime, taking your questions, very similar format. Today was a bit more concentrated on the redundancy end of things, career change, re-entering the workforce, and kind of talking about the UK job market and why it is very difficult to find a job in this market. So if you have a question, I still have about 8 minutes or so. Looking at my timer, I have about 10 minutes or so. I'm more than happy to take a question or two. Like I said, here to take anything. Why is it hard? What's an assessment center? How do I make a career change? And what do I need to consider if I want to make a career change? How do I prepare for a career change? What do I need to consider for a career change? How do I determine what should I change my career to? Should I, I'm facing redundancy. Should I look at starting, doing a career change and starting at the bottom to work up? And I've just done a content on that to answer that question. I have talked about that. I've talked about starting from the bottom, also talking about Zupka and Travis and Bestel. So I've talked about it. So take a look. I would really encourage you to take a look. I would also advise you, to take a look at that also. I've done, talking about resigning, a lot of times when redundancies in jobs happen. Hey, Nick. Hey, Zoe. One of the first things is, because the workload starts to increase, is to get this knee-jerk reaction about resigning and should you. And I've talked about, should you resign? Or is it, does it become constructive dismissal versus constructive dismissal versus resigning. Also, too, I've talked about on my Career Advice UK account, I've talked about the idea of, explaining more in detail where the number 2.5 comes from. And again, and I do talk about, the term overqualified, because it is one term, that we do get. And especially if you are older and you're entering the workforce from a break because you're caring for parents, or fun mic, or you're entering the workforce applying for jobs because you've been made redundant. One of the terms that gets tossed around a lot is being overqualified. And what does that really mean? I take it and I address it because it can have a, in some contexts, it can have a, a discrimination term, and it can be discriminatory. So it is, again, taking a look. And I would really encourage you, if you haven't, hey, Alex, good to see you and welcome back. I would encourage you to follow, because I do talk a lot about employment rights, and my videos talk about a lot of things that a lot of influencers won't talk about. And I do try to cover a lot of the gaps that exist there, because of my experience and knowledge, that I'm able to confidently talk about, and about topics that typically don't get others that do, because a lot of them will just kind of do a whole barrage of, talk a bit maybe about ATS or CVs. Again, a lot of the advice when, hey, Dylan, that they talk about or give you about CVs tends to be wrong. Because again, as we talk about the ATS and talking about this idea of why things get rejected in ATS, one of the things is some people will blatantly tell you should put your photo on it, and that's always one of my bigger no-nos. And I say that in this regard, because it is something, photos, when you post them to your CV, just like tables, strange text, doesn't get picked up by ATS. It is harder for them to pick up. Also, too, it does, hey, Googa, it does also raise data protection issues, and stuff. And so it is, in my opinion, the worst thing to do is put your photograph on your CV, because again, when you do that, you do also run into potential biases. And again, if you're looking for a guide, a bit of some cheap advice, versus getting, let's say, career advice, one of the things I would say is kind of use books, and the UK Job Seeker 2026 playbook, available at Leap Start Careers. Just enter the keyword, the discount code playbook 25 for 25% off. Job Seekers Play. So just head over there. And so, yes, so if you do head over there, and I do believe that the link is published in my profile too. So don't worry if you didn't catch it, because it is in the profile as a short URL. Just copy that and you should be good. So remember, I'm winding down the last 2 minutes, so I can pick up one more question. If not, I want to thank all of you for coming. Just remember, discount. And look for me, because I will check my profile, because I will post again when I will be going live again. And also check out for me on other social media, because I will post on other social media. Especially I'm active on one more, where I do talk a lot about disability rights and the failures of the disability confidence scheme. So if that is of interest, I would say search me out. And so take a look. I'm back at 4 a.m. I don't think I will probably, after I'm done here, do one tomorrow, but check for me on Thursday. Because typically, Thursday, so yes, so take a look, ask, if you have a question, I will pick it up. Hey, Brooke and George. So yes, so if you have a question, I will. I'm not in a massive rush, so take a look, and thank you for the likes. So thank you all for being here. The link is in my bio, as I've said. The code is enter at checkout, playbook 25, and that's good for the next 2 weeks. So no rush to get it tonight, but check it out. And check my profile out when I'm going live streaming next. Thank you, everyone, and look forward to seeing you back again. And also, too, if you haven't, check out Career Advice UK content for all of your questions, and follow to ensure that you keep up to date with current trends and also topics as it relates to employment. Thank you all, and I will see you again soon.